Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Soul Food Book Club here at Enlightened World Network. We are starting a new reading today, and we being our Auntie Jean Lorio.
Hello, everyone. I'm in Texas, by the way.
Yes, you are. Linda Lemieux in Florida.
Florida, yes. Hot.
And our Charlie Coons up in Long Island.
Hello, everyone.
We got the four corners covered.
We do, because I'm out west in Colorado. So today we are going to start talking about the Tao. And we're hoping that we have more people that are interested in looking at this writing and examining it and seeing how it speaks to you. And I know before we came on the air, Jean, you were saying how you think you understand something, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. And that's the way this book flows, isn't it?
I've got question marks all over my paper. Question. So let's have a good. What did you think of it, Charlie and Linda?
I thought.
Go ahead, Linda.
So I should have done that.
It sounds like we're just trying too hard to be ourselves. We're, labeling things and organizing things, and this has to be this way and that has to be that way, and we're making all the parameters. And to me, the message is to take those parameters away and look past that.
That's great.
That's my take. Charlie?
Yeah, well, like he teaches without doing things, just by, his actions or, inactions, just by the way he looks, or you could feel, I've read it before. I read one of his books, and it's, it's like Jean says, it'll seem one way and then it's another way, it's hard to get a grasp of, but once you do, it's profoundly effective. Yeah. It's
my first question mark is like in the third stanza where he says,
sorry, I was wondering if we could just read like that first one.
Absolutely.
Can we do that?
Right.
I was going to say we should read the whole thing.
Yeah, really, you almost have to do that stanza by stanza to understand.
Yeah. So I'll start if somebody wants to jump in after I read the first part. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. It's kind of cryptic, isn't it?
I know. That right off the bat, I'm like, huh?
Well, what this reminds me of is there's a verse in the Bible about God being the unnameable one. And so I think this is just right along that same thought process that, we humans, we want to put a name on everything. We want to, like you were saying, Linda, we want to label it. We want to know for certain this is what we're talking about, right? So for it to make sense. And I think God is one of those concepts that it doesn't make sense. And so we try to somehow put it in our little box of, okay, this is what it is. And, we're going to call it God, or we're going to call it Buddha, or we're going to call it whatever, whatever name we choose to give it, like Pam Grout calls him the dude.
I know.
we want to put it in our box so that we can look at it and say, oh yeah, that's what that is. And so it's that label. And this is what that, I think this is what that first part is saying. It's like, it can't be named, you know, and it's not the eternal name. There's so many names that that being is called by, and you can't just say that is it. Definitely, that is the name. So that's what I got from that first part.
But when you name something and put it in a box, you describe it. And we each probably have a different picture in our own mind or feeling or meaning. And to me, I was just got the picture of the elephant where the blind man had to describe it. And one
Right.
man had a tusk and one man had the trunk and one man had a leg. And they each described all these things differently, the tail. And so it's, I guess it's a way of communicating with the humans to describe this thing out there that's really, you can't describe, but we try to because we want to communicate with each other about it.
Right. And our brain just can't say, oh, it's something, but I'm not sure what it is, because we want to know what it is. Yeah, good point, Linda.
Well, the next stanza says, the unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things.
Everything's got a name.
Well, I think, to me, it kind of says that when we give it a name, then that's its origin. That's its, you know, it was there, it was that, but we named it. So now it's real. I don't know. It's just really,
I think you're right.
yeah.
It's like the word love. If you name a feeling, a word, just like is spirit or a being, or, you know, we spirit may just be there. Doesn't mean it's a person. It's everything. So, you know, if you name love, we all love differently, and there's loving a husband or a soulmate or a friend, or, you know, there's so many different degrees in that word love. And sometimes it's really just like, and sometimes it's extreme, you know. So my point is, I'm going on, there's so many different connotations of the word love. So there's different connotations of spirit or whatever, or God, or kind of the same thing I said before.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it's an
Right.
individual way of seeing it and understanding it. And, you know, love is that way. It's like each one of us is going to have a thought about what that is based on our beliefs and our experiences.
And you know, I've been thinking a lot on that, because, you know, a lot of people think like is like a prerequisite to love. And I think it's the other way around. I think we love first because in our own spirit self, we love everybody and everything. But we don't necessarily like everybody or everything. So to me, it's not a prerequisite to love. The love usually comes first, and then it's like your children. You love them immediately. But then as they grow up, they become their own person, then you start to like them as people. Before it was just, or not, you know, and it's true. But you know what made me think of that is when we were talking about me and Meg and I, when we were talking about Meg and I, that we loved each other from the very beginning. But what we did do is grow and like to the point where we feel like we're sisters, you know. Yeah. So, but anyway, starting to make a little bit more sense.
Okay, good.
I'd like to get to the part where I put the question mark, though.
Okay. Well, who wants to read next?
Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations.
I love this line. Is this one that you had a question about, Jean?
No, it's the one below it.
Okay. So this one, yeah, I really do like this sign, this line, and the message that when we're caught up in desire, we're only focused on what we can manifest, what we can bring to us. But if we stop desiring things or whatever it is we want to call to us, we see that that great mystery that is the unnameable one, the eternal one, has it all going on for us. We don't have to be calling stuff to us. It's like a freedom. To me, that's freedom.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but when I was studying about Buddha, Buddha is saying that we let our, at least I think this is what he said, that we let our desires control us. It might be a desire for power. It might be a desire for love. It might be for riches. And so we're going to be, well, like he says at the end, how well did we let go? Let go of that desire, you know, and that's where we find the true growth is when we let go of that desire.
So we find peace.
So I'm fine all the way up to here, but then it's the next line.
Okay.
Well, it says, yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. And this source is called darkness. That's confusing for me because I think of the source being light.
Well, go ahead and read the next part because it goes with it.
Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it was about 3 years ago, I was given this meditation called Into the Void. And it is a recorded meditation that I have on my YouTube channel. And in the void is where there's the darkness, there's like nothingness, but there's everything. It's that great mystery. When you go into this void, you go in without expectation. You go in without really anything other than just being. When you go into the void, you just experience. You don't go in thinking, oh, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find the great mystery. I'm going to really have this revelation. You don't go in with any anticipation of what's going to happen. You just allow that experience. And when I first experienced that, and I went into that void part of my mind, into my being, I saw all of these forms that were just like free floating. And it was just showing me that everything is energy. And when we can go into the void without expectation, we'll have the experience. Something will happen, but it may not be exactly what we thought it might be. So when we lose the thought of what it's supposed to look like, then we can see the reality of it. And the mystery is there, but it's not something that we can't comprehend, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense now that you equated the darkness to the void. I hadn't. I was just thinking of darkness as opposed to light. But I understand what you mean because I've been in that void, you know, at times in meditation. It's so free and it's so relaxing, and I don't even know how to explain it. But Yeah. See, I'm wondering if maybe part of my misunderstanding is the time, the when it was written, and how our language has maybe become more specific than it was then. To darkness then, it meant void. But to me, now we have a word called void. So I think this might be part of my problem. Very good. I understand it now. Thank you.
Linda, Charlie, any thoughts?
I'm still not real clear on it.
I was trying to get Mary Lou.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would love to have her insight on this.
Really?
I lost again in numbers. Did Teri mean we weren't meeting? Maybe put the link in the Soul Food Book Club for her. She just tried a group audio call.
Or maybe just send it to her in the messenger, because it's in the Soul Food Book Club. That's
It is
how I
in
got
there.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, it stays in there.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's
Uh-oh. Charlie collapsed.
We lost
There
Charlie.
he is.
I had a spam call. All right, I seen the link came up.
Yeah, I just put it in.
All right. So maybe Mary Lou will come in and have a couple words.
That'd be great. I would love her comment.
Oh, we have someone listening in. Eddie, hello. Welcome.
Hi, Eddie.
So Linda, I'll send you the link to that meditation that I did called The Void, because to me, this is exactly what I was shown in that meditation, that when we just don't try to control it, now it's like Marietta says, accept, align, allow, and don't try to put out any other energy other than just being and allowing the energy to come to us, then that's when we feel the freedom of experiencing. Mary Lou, welcome.
Hello there.
I apologize. I was with a friend and she needed me, and so I didn't want to rush her.
Oh, no apology necessary. We're just glad you're here.
And then I had trouble finding my code to get in. So, what did I miss?
Well, we just went through the first part. We read it and we're picking it apart now and seeing how we can understand it. Understand it more fully.
I wrote down 3 of my favorite ones.
Well,
I have to write them down. When I do Kindle, then I have to write it down so I can discuss it, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that I kind of think that's a good thing, right? Because now I have it and I'll have it.
Right, in your notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I printed it out. It's,
Oh, that's a good idea too, Charlie. I didn't think to do that.
yeah, it's like only 33 pages. So,
33.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Yeah, I think it's 33 pages.
The first one gets you right away, doesn't it?
That's what we were just talking about.
Oh,
Love to hear
Yeah.
your ideas, Mary Lou.
Yep. Let me reread it now. Freedom from desire. You realize the mystery caught in the desire you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. And the gateway to all understanding. You know, and it's a different, like a backdoor thought process for me, because I always think of light, you know, the light is where we want to go. But then it reminded me of, you know, the scriptures that I've learned from, you know, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it can't produce, it can't be formed, and I think it's about the willingness to allow that to happen to ourselves, that, knowing that without the darkness, you don't come into the light. Is
Yeah.
that kind of like what you were thinking?
I was like, the darkness is like the meditation, and you get into the higher spirit, like, you see things more clearly when you get into the meditation.
Yeah, like when you close your eyes and allow your senses to go to that place of darkness. That's just a word, isn't it? Darkness. It's like giving up, really, and letting go.
Right.
And yeah, it's beautiful. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
It's my kind of thing. I love thinking about stuff like this.
And if you remember in the scriptures in the Bible, it wasn't light in the beginning. In the beginning, it was darkness. It was void.
Yes.
And then the light came after that, and the creation came after that. So to me, it just makes perfect sense that darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like go back to that beginning place. You don't think of it though, I think I've always been so conscious that we need to be light to one another. We need to bring the light, so it kind of brings it to another spiritual level that I'm embracing that.
Teri helped me understand it by, in a way, substituting the word void, not darkness, but the darkness that's a void. Out what everything comes out of is that void, and that makes a lot more sense to me. That I was stuck with that too, Mary Lou. I had a big question mark. Darkness, we're looking for light. Why are we? But now it does make sense to me. It helps to make sense. And especially with you bringing in that scripture about it being dark, you're right. It was. The first thing that, the Bible says, God said, let there be light.
And there was light.
And there was light. Yeah. And his breath moved back and forth across the earth. So, yes.
A lot of this reminds me of Kahlil Gibran, and he talks like that, that you can't find happiness until you experience sadness.
Right.
That you have to go to those places within yourself. And and I remember, years back, people saying to me, you have it's okay to experience those places. We need to allow them and to walk through them. Don't avoid them. Don't pretend they're not there. Allow them. And that's where, and that is where understanding comes from, right? Is, knowing, like the diamond, the diamond wasn't beautiful to begin with, and pottery needs to be formed. And it's that willingness to let go and go into wherever that darkness might be so that we can become who we're supposed to be. Yeah. It's really cool.
I just bought that book.
I was just going to say that we talked about that too, that I can see the repeating of that with Buddha and him saying that desires is what keeps us. We either so many of us desire wealth or power or whatever it is we desire, and until we let that go, we can't mature into spiritual beings that we are. So I'm so sorry, Linda. Go ahead.
Well, it's that's okay. I don't know if I interrupted somebody. I just bought that book 2 weeks ago, Kahlil Gibran, because I had it years ago and I can't find it. It's probably packed away in the attic. But I just kept getting a message to get that book again. And then I started reading Seth Speaks.
Mhm.
So I'm getting all these messages. And I was going to say, it's like being creative. You can't go into being creative with like in a box and a framework, like Teri was talking about, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. You kind of have to let go to have that creative feeling come in.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting that that name came up because I just quoted him a few days ago in one of the blogs. Yeah.
Maybe he was a student of Tai Ching. I don't know who came first, you know, if you know, I don't know their time frame of being here in the world, you know, but he must have been one of them influenced the
I think
other.
he was yeah, I think this is very ancient writing that we're studying. And I think probably he was a student of it for sure. Yeah. Can we go to the next part? Linda, do you want to start us with that next part?
I don't have a copy. I read it on my iPad, but I couldn't print it out.
All right. Mary Lou, do you have yours in front of you?
I don't. I only wrote 3. I wrote 1, 6, and 11.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Well, I can start it. Jean, did you want to?
I'll be happy to if you want me to.
Okay.
When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad.
It's that contrast, right? If we didn't know what up was, we wouldn't know what down was. That's the world we live in. This 3D world is all about the contrast.
Which I don't know if it has to always be extreme. I've always tended to say, I'll take a little bit of the bad with the good. I'll take a little bit of the ugly with the beautiful, you know? I think that it's good to be aware that there's those contrasts, but I don't know that I want to necessarily wallow in either one because, you know, I know that I have to allow either one, but I think I can take control if I'm finding that it's not benefiting myself or those that I love, you know, ugly is okay sometimes, you know, if something's ugly, it's ugly, you know, but we can hope for it to have beauty in the ugliness. Does that make sense?
Oh, it definitely makes sense. You know, I used to fish back in the day, and there was a fish that I would catch quite often, actually. And I think it's called a dogfish. And it is a really ugly fish. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It is an ugly fish. So there are those things that they're not appealing to us to look at, but there's a beauty in them, Mary Lou, like you said. It's a living thing. It's energy. It's something that was created. And, you know, we can see that part of it, but just to look at it on its own, the physical appearance is not pretty at all. So I can see that dichotomy and yeah, the appreciation of it. I think the real growth comes when we get to the 0 point, when we look at it as neutral. Like, I'm not going to look at it as ugly. I'm not going to look at it as beautiful, but I'm just going to see it for what it is and allow myself to go there to that place.
That's the way I took it. I took it as when we start making judgments of what is beautiful, then we tend to make things, you know, if we say, okay, this form, this shape, this is beautiful, we tend to make a judgment that this one is not, that it's ugly. You know, or this is the good way to act, and this is the bad way to act. And I took it as, don't make that judgment. Just accept everything as it is. And then you won't, you know, have that division of, well, this is beautiful and this is not. Everything is is beautiful in its own way, you know, like they say.
Like the song says.
Sounds like a song. I want to sing it.
I know.
Sing it in your beautiful voice.
Song. Yeah.
And the dogfish is ugly, but it's part of the food chain.
Yes,
It has
is.
a purpose,
Mhm.
you know, and other things depend on it. And,
Yeah.
you know, so it's doesn't have to be pretty to help the food chain in nature.
Right, and survival.
Valuable.
Yeah. Well, we have Andrea with us and
Oh,
Kamal. Welcome everybody. We're delving into the Tao Te Ching, and what a beautiful, beautiful writing. It's an ancient writing that if we really look at the beauty of it, it teaches us so much. So we're just reading it and seeing how it affects us. So we welcome any comments that you all want to make. And we'd love to have you come on Zoom with us. That way we can hear your comments as well. All right, should we go to the next lines? Charlie, do you want to?
Okay. Yeah, being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other.
So some of the words I heard were defend and follow. What were they too, Charlie? What were some of the other ones?
Define, support, and create.
Define.
Yeah.
So opposites can do all those things. In our mind, those opposite things can still be very active in their presence to us.
Yeah.
They have purpose, in other words.
They do. I think it's very interesting that last line, before and after follow each other.
Like a circle, right? The circle of life.
Never-ending circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, should we move on to the next line? Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess, acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever.
What
Jean,
was
did
the
you
very
have
last
a question mark on that? I'm sorry, Linda. What was your question?
I interrupted you. What was the very last line again?
That is why it lasts forever.
It's asking a lot, isn't it? For me, day in and day out. Oh my gosh, I wish I had that wisdom. You know, it's a goal to strive for, maybe, or to pray for, be open for, you know, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I love the feminine that's brought into all
I
of
know,
these
that's
people.
why I was almost giggling. I'm like, oh. I do like that. And I love the very first part. The master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything.
They just
Yes.
see.
I think the most profound things we can learn in life, we learn from observing, and we teach by our actions. It's not necessarily the words that we say. It's like, what are we doing?
I think that's why they keep telling us, you know, if we do our meditations and stuff, they say just be who you are. And Jesus told us, you are the light of the world. So you just be, and your light shines out, and you're teaching, and you're doing all these things by just being, and
So I don't know who that saint was, Jean. Maybe you remember. There was a saint that said, teach without speaking. Something like that.
But that's
I
beautiful.
know we've talked about it in the book club before, but
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but we quoted them as saying, I teach and sometimes I speak, and it's the same thought, that this you're our example. I raised that way, that we teach by our example, that words, you can talk and talk and talk, and you can teach and teach and teach, but it's the example that especially young people learn by. But I don't think we ever stop when we're, just because we call ourselves adults, we still learn by example of one another.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know who it is. I'm sorry, Linda, go ahead.
Do you, Teri?
It's like that poem you read this morning, let me be an instrument of thy peace.
Yeah.
And spread peace and spread light by example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's the one that we just lost this year. What was his name? Yeah, I can see his face. Thich Nhat Hanh. Wasn't it Thich Nhat Hanh that said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I teach and sometimes I speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't teach without being. You can't. That's just words. And as a human race, I think we've matured enough to realize that words can be manipulated. Words can tell you anything, but what you see is usually what you get. What you're seeing.
It's like we were saying earlier too, words mean different things to different people.
Absolutely.
You can say a word and I might see something in my mind totally different than what you're envisioning in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
because of the intention and the motivation behind it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like that modern expression that, not modern anymore. I guess it's 20 years old, but don't talk the talk until you walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't even have to talk the talk. Just walk the walk.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying.
That's what we want from one another is, show me if you feel that way, if you believe that way, if you are that way.
Shall we go on to 3? Charlie, wake up and read.
And if you overesteem great men, people become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal.
That's a deep one.
Yeah.
I think we've had plenty of proof of that in the real world right now for a couple of years. So, a few years, I should say.
I think the power begins to feed on itself. The power becomes the be all end all.
That's that desire again.
Yeah. And I think it does happen in leadership roles, both large, in government or institutional places, but it happens with relationships too, with friends even. I think it's a something that we should all kind of be aware of, that, a friendship is give and take. And sometimes, we get off balance with it, and, we want to be the one that, is the teacher, or, we want to be the one that's, like I have a friend that I love dearly, and we have to be careful with each other because it seems like she always wants to do more. She wants to give me things and, oh, I have this and I have, and I'm like, back off again, back off. I feel an imbalance sometimes, with that, where you don't want one to be above the other. I love that expression, don't walk in front of me, don't walk behind me, walk beside me.
Beside me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And that's
Now,
really,
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that's really what that is all about, where it's like, if we overesteem someone, then we're giving our power away.
That's right.
What was your thought, Jean?
I was just thinking of how they say that power corrupts and ultimate power corrupts ultimately, So it is true that we have to, nobody should have power over anybody. We're all equal. We're all the same. We're all one.
Yeah. There's no hierarchy. We
There's
made
no
the hierarchy. They're
Yeah.
really, we all came here equally.
Mhm.
I think it's a goal that we all need to continue to strive after,
Mhm.
that it's always been a problem. It's always
Mhm.
been, and it always will be, and as long as we're aware of it, then those of us that are aware can, keep the reality, we're in that circle together. We're not above like the triangle, coming down. Hard to do sometimes in our humanity.
It sure is. Yeah. And it comes down to our belief. How do we believe about power? How do we believe about leaders? And, how are we showing that in the world? Are we showing that we lift somebody up higher than the rest of us? They're really not.
I love that expression, the child shall lead, because I think in their innocence that they constantly are reminding us that what life is really about, and it's not about being the adult in charge all the time. It's about, helping one another to learn through relationship and experience.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you think about it, a child doesn't come into the world thinking, oh, who's in charge, right? They don't come in looking to see, who's got the most power. They just come in wanting to love and be loved. And if we could just get back to that awe and that wonder state of the child,
Yeah.
It changes everything. Jean, do you want to read the next part?
Sure. Oops. Sorry, got to put my eyes on.
I love those eyes. Those
Me too. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. Can I read the next line too? Kind of goes.
Yeah, it goes with it.
Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place.
Isn't it an interesting shift that we went from that feminine to the masculine? Because in the second part, it was referring to the master, and then it says she does this and she, does that. And then here is also saying the master, but now we went to the masculine.
Yeah.
I'm so happy because
So
I think,
like
I think we all need to relate with both feminine and
it's
masculine.
interchangeable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you got to think of when this was written, but it was accepted as truth by enlightened people. Feminine and masculine are important together, you know. Somehow in between that time and our time, it got kind of messed up. But it, you know, it's true. And I really related with that. I know that sounds crazy, but practice not doing and everything will fall into place. That's part of been my problem is I always want to do and I always want to fix and I feel like I can and that's not true. I just have to let go of that idea and everything will fall into place just as it's supposed to.
I was thinking about that on the drive here, that how beautiful it is that I know that that there is a master and that master has always been and always will be. And that I am capable of allowing that master to lead and guide and direct me. And I am that person. I've been blessed to know to lose yourself into that master and I will find myself. I know that I've entertained that within myself for many, many years now, that it's okay not to be in charge. And yet sometimes I have the responsibility to be that person that's in charge, and to be okay with that, but the real growth and the blessing as an individual for me is when I say, okay, you're in charge, I'm not in charge, and I will find myself when I lose myself in that way, not in a psychotic way or anything, some people tell you, don't do that, don't detach, because that I think it's all in the timing too, and in the mindset, I understood what my dentist asked me one time, how are you coping? How he was my dentist with my ex-husband and myself and my children. And he watched us go through the pain of separation and divorce and, how are you coping with it? And I said, I don't think about it an awful lot. I just go with it. And, I feel the pain. And, and a priest once said to me, why are you always so happy? You're supposed to be hurting right now. And I'm like, I guess I'm just not one of those suffering saints. I guess I'm a happy saint. I feel it, but I don't have to wallow in it, and I think it was a gift that I had, a grace that I had that allowed me to get through it without making it more than what it had to be. And I did that by losing myself in trust, in the trust elements, Other people, maybe didn't know that about me, maybe other people did see the pain, that I think, there was a couple people that, I shared the pain with, but I didn't with everybody. I didn't feel like I had to do that,
Right. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Interesting. Sometimes I watch a movie at night so I can just relax enough to fall asleep and stop thinking. And I just watched one and I don't even remember the name of it, but it was just that, Mary Lou. There were two women that had gone through divorce and one of them was so stuck in her anger and, just being mad and hurt. And the other one was like, oh, I'm done. I'm moving on, and living her life and enjoying life. And it was just showing those two extremes of, how we respond and how we react to something. But it's when we decide to let go that the peace comes. That's what I found.
I think so many times we want ownership or control of the outcome. Mm-hmm. We think somebody's supposed to grow up and go to college, or we think this should happen or that should happen, or according to the little play that we have in our mind, and we try to steer people different ways. And sometimes they're not bendable or steerable, and they have to do it for themselves. when we're trying to dictate the outcome, and we need to just let it go, and they have to do it the way they want to do it. They have their own lessons.
Mhm.
We just talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I
Maybe
think-
out of bounds here, but I'd like to ask Charlie something. Charlie, females, women, we have a fairly free way of talking about emotional things. We kind of underneath everything share a sisterhood that's long and ancient, and we talk to each other and we share about our emotions and our feelings. When you get into an article or a piece like this, there's a lot of that. And I was wondering, as a male, like I said, I may be out of line here. Is it more difficult for you to talk about these things? Does
No,
it? No.
people call me ma'am, so
Oh,
I have a lot of female energy. I've been a female in many lifetimes, so it's
probably true, because you have a lot of, of those qualities that I admire that many men are having nowadays, where they are bringing the feminine into their lives. So, but I just wondered if, you've been kind of quiet, and I know we like to yak a lot, especially me. So I just was wondering, watching you.
I'm just quiet because I'm tired. I've been working, doing so many things around the house, and
Oh, well, me too. Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay, and
All right.
like I said, I'm very sensitive person, and
You are. Mhm.
yeah, and and they call me ma'am all the time on the phone. Okay, ma'am, and I'm like, I'm not a ma'am, I'm a sir. Yeah, so
Well, take it as a compliment.
okay. Yeah,
But I understand your question, Jean, and I know that there are a lot of men that have trouble with expressing their emotions. And Charlie, I think, like Jean, I really appreciate that about you, that you're able to share emotional things and to share from that deeper level of, this is how I feel, or this is what I think. So thank you for being a part of us and sharing with us in that way, ma'am.
right. Okay. Should we just read the last one before we go? It's a real short one.
Sure. You want to do that?
We only got a minute.
I know.
The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God.
Question mark.
Question mark, right? Yeah, definite question mark, because if God is the creator, how can it be older than God, right? Is that your thought, Jean?
Yes, nothing's older than God.
Right.
Because that word infinite, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know who gave birth to it. What an interesting mind.
Well, because it's all about mystery. It goes back to mystery again. I love to do that, because we think we need to scientifically know and understand, but I don't know, I'm comfortable not knowing. I'm wondering, and I think that's a gift that we have, to be able to wonder and have a sense of mystery and awe. It's not necessary to know all things always. It's
Yeah.
okay that, it's okay to know that there's an infinity. My grandson was talking about it a little bit, he was quoting things his dad had said to him about we possibly came from aliens, and I mean, it was nothing. I didn't think anybody in my family, who was a strong Catholic Christian, heritage, and here's my little grandson telling me, his dad thinks that it's very possible that we came from aliens. And he said, of course, everybody has their own opinion and understanding about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, honey. I can't, disagree with you. And I told him, I believe that there's something more than us that always was and always will be before us and after us. And that, I'm secure knowing that, and that makes me very happy. But I know some people think that, that they like to go into a more scientific thought process of the universe, and the possibilities of all that. And we just don't really know. One of my friends said to me 10 years ago, Mary Lou, how would you feel when Jesus returns and becomes as an alien? And I think she thought I would be offended. And I just laughed and said, I don't know, everything's possible. What is an alien? We don't know really what that even means. There's all things that are possible. There's a whole universe out there that we don't know, so I'm okay with mystery and not having the answer to every single thing. Is that kind of like along the thought of what they were saying, do you think?
I think so. And this is a huge lesson that I've been learning lately, is that it's okay not to know. And when we can reach that point of being okay with not knowing, then we've won most of the battle, maybe not all of it, because there's that part of our brain that says, no, inquiring minds want to know.
I mean, I do think that we find security in knowing specific things,
Right.
But those big world life pictures, I'm okay with that level of it. There's certain things I want to know, I want to know what time supper going to be tonight. You know what I mean? Because I have to cook it.
Right.
I have to put it in the stove and know how many minutes to put it in, but as far as knowing, what's beyond the beyond, it's okay. We don't have to know that. We can be comfortable with wonder and mystery.
Yeah, we're not always going to know everything about everything. And then there's that. The more I learn, there is more to learn.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of excitement and that we have those things that we can still wonder about. I mean, can you imagine if we knew the answer to everything? And unfortunately, I think some people think they do. And that's where the problems come in.
True, Ching.
So I like the idea of having that wonder and unanswerable question.
I'm loving the discussion. I've always loved the Tao ever since I first came across it. And I believe it was from Dr. Wayne Dyer that I first learned about it and just fell in love with his reading of it. He does have it where he has read it on YouTube. You can go find it there and listen to his deep voice, just really sharing in a simple way. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the discussion that we're going to have over the next weeks. That's okay. That's the power of this writing.
Yes, I love it.
Not something you can just say, oh, okay, let's move on, because it is so deep and we want to understand more about what it's saying to us. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who's here on Zoom. Thank you to those who are watching in with us today. And like I say, I hope we have some of our regulars that come in and jump in here and share some of their thoughts with us. We'd love to see that. And let's just keep moving forward with it. Do you all want to set a goal for how much we're going to read through next week? I mean, I read this, I could read it every day, the whole thing. So let's
really? No, because I had too many questions. I can't read the whole thing every time.
So we did 4 or so 5, so we'll do the 10 or something. And
So
then we'll
5
go-
through 10 for next week then?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
And
Okay.
then we'll
Sounds
go
good.
over them. And, yeah.
I read further
Okay.
than that, but that's good. Yeah. I
All
got
right.
questions all.
That's all right,
Talk
Jean.
about
That's what we're here for.
Anyway,
Okay.
thank you all. This has been
Right.
so beautiful.
It has. Thank you all so much. Anybody have any last thoughts or words?
When's our next meeting?
Next week?
No, today. There's another meeting today, isn't there?
We have a
Not
class
today.
tonight.
6:30.
Oh,
I didn't-
yes, it'll be me doing the reading, I think. So I'm doing
That's
I'm doing the
right.
angel.
That's right. That'll be the next one. And then we have one after
Angel
that.
7 did that.
Okay.
We have class after the reading, yeah.
Okay.
Jean's frozen.
I'm frozen or you're
All right.
frozen. Or
Well, let's
I'm
leave
just-
everybody with
Let's go.
namaste.
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 Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.